What is an odd behavior of yours you think only you do? Here's what Redditors have to say. My dog and I have arguments when he barks. He will hear someone in a hallway outside and start barking every time. I tell him shhhh, and he barks again slightly less loudly this time. This continues until I can barely hear him, but he has to get the last word in. Drives me up the wall. I do the same with my cat. We have full-on conversations and arguments. I hold my breath when someone walks by in a confined space because I don't want to breathe their essence in. I don't know. I do this because I don't want to breathe in the air they exhaled. In my mind, I'm then breathing in some of their essence, and I generally avoid people. I have a hard time in crowds or when walking down a street with lots of others around. I will also hold my breath when I walk past someone who just sticks out to me. Not too bad until I can't get around them in time and I'm turning purple because I need a breath. My hands being wet makes me angry. I'm not a confrontational/aggressive person, but if my hands were wet and someone came at me, I'd be probably 4 times more likely to be aggressive back at them. How about this one? I don't mind my hands being properly wet, paressy, but I'm either feeling not properly dried and hate one of my hands being wet, or one being more wet than the other. I also can't stand them being even slightly sticky or feeling dirty, but if I have to plunge my hands in mud or something, I'm fine. Guess maybe I'm just an all or nothing person. I get weird compulsions that I need to touch between my pinky fingers or touch my armpit. It's more like a tickling sensation that builds until I have to relieve it by touching it. I have no idea what causes this, and I haven't heard of anyone else that has to do this. Maybe some form of mild OCD. Edit. Frequency of the sensation is constant. Every few seconds, though I feel the intensity of the feeling comes in waves. When I wake up for work, sometimes I have the good chills about certain things. Like the AC console in my car might look like a cockpit, and it sends good chills down my spine. It's like the time before I have to be at work is a cozy little mini time. There is no way in hell I can explain this in words. I have always called it the morning weird. Man, I hope there is someone else out there that knows what I'm talking about. Yep, I get them. Usually as I get my day going, and especially if there's something cozy about my drive-in to work that strikes me, like when I get a really good podcast and I have my coffee and suddenly I take it all in, and it's like a tiny little joygasm that gives me a shivery boost. I have noticed I often sniff when I enter a room, so I don't scare people by just talking out of nowhere. Your friends probably think you've got a crippling cocaine habit. Sometimes when I'm listening to music I play a game where I tap my fingers to the syllables. If the sentence ends at the pinky or the thumb I win. If not I must continue until it ends up at one of them. Sometimes I wonder if there's actually people who can see into your mind. So I start thinking about really interesting things, so if there is, they won't think I'm boring. I scream as loud as I can, mentally, and think of really. If they look uncomfortable after that, I then know that they can. I'll sometimes do the Homer Simpson bit. I know you can read my thoughts, boy, meow 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 meow, and if there's no reaction I feel safer, haha. I rub my feet together when I'm in bed and getting ready to sleep. My boyfriend calls it cricketing. Same boyfriend hates it. I do something like this. Less rubbing feet together, more feet sliding between the sheets, but alternating directions. I really only do it for effect for my wife, especially if I'm in bed well before she is. And it's not a daily thing, just whenever I'm feeling particularly cozy. Using random number generator apps to dictate how I set my daily to-do lists. When I can't decide between two things I assign them random numbers, like 68 and 14, or call them left and right, and have someone pick one over the other. Whatever they choose I go for that thing. When I'm alone I use a RNG or coin instead. So not exactly, but same idea I suppose. I also do this, but if I find myself disappointed in the outcome, then I do the opposite. It's more like uncovering my true desire than truly randomizing. I rub the tip of my nose, and after a while it starts to feel really nice. and I get a mild sensation not unlike an orgasm. So now I've been rubbing my nose for longer than I'd like to admit. Yeah, me too. Nothing happening though. My alarm is set to 7 AM. I can't remember when I last had it go off because I wake up at around 6:15 and spend some time on my phone before unsetting my alarm and getting in the shower before 7 AM. Each day when I come home from work, I say to my cat Bruce Wayne, "Hi, honey, I'm home. Did you do your taxes? Or what? You did your taxes." In my head, if my cat were a person, he'd be a tax accountant or something. Every time I leave the house, I remind my dog to pay whatever bill is due next. I tap my top and bottom teeth side to side to make rhythms, but both sides have to be evenly tapped. And when I think of or hear a particular word, I'll rearrange the letters so they go consonant, vowel, etc. and add letters in when they don't fit the pattern. Double letters get scratched. So say the word pattern, it becomes parrying because it's following the rule and removing doubles. Sometimes I'll stretch it out to incorporate every vowel and Y. So in that case, pattern would become Perinacusoli. No reason why, but I do it constantly and haven't been able to switch if off for 15 years or more. It took me a very long time to realize what I was doing, and even longer to be able to put it into words. When I'm watching a movie or TV series and something bad happens to a character I really like, I can't handle him being sad or distraught. So I stop watching it. It's a real problem. I have to force myself to continue. Because if I wouldn't watch anything until the end. It's been like this since I was a kid. I can't watch sitcoms or other awkward drama shows. I put myself in the show, not as a character, just like I'm watching it happen IRL or something. I'm firmly aware it's a show, and that I'm not there, and it's not here, and I can't stand those awkward moments. And most sitcoms are built around that. I'm very picky about what I watch, lol. Not the same as yours, but it feels like a cousin to it somehow. When at the library or bookstore, I sometimes open a book I know I will read at some point, but not right now, and read a random line at a random page. Then, maybe years later, I will read the book, and when I get to that line that I have forgotten all about and get the most powerful feeling of deja vu, I will remember what the world felt like, smelled like, the sensations and feelings I had while reading that line. It's like little gifts of memories to future me floating around in various books. That's beautiful. As someone who gets a lot of deja vu, I want to try this. I walk fast. When it's a crowded place, I use hand gestures whenever another person gets in my way to tell them where I will go. Like I point to the left and they automatically move to the right without any awkwardness. It works more often than I expected. People tend to follow such unexpected gestures unconsciously. Fellow fast walker. When I walk down a crowded street, I pretend as though I'm returning a kick in American football, scanning ahead for creases, sidestepping into space, using people walking ahead of me to set up blocks. I might need to start adding touchdown celebrations at the end of the street. In my head, I make a plan to rob any business I enter. I make note of security, cameras, employees. I think about what part of town I'm in and try to estimate what the police response time would be and possible escape routes and so on. I'd never do it, of course. It's just a mental exercise. I made the mistake of telling my wife about it, and now when we go out she notices and tracks my eyes and says, "Stop that. You're so weird. Lol." After I stopped chewing on my nails, I needed a new thing for when I'm nervous, preferably something discreet. So I started pressing my nails into the side of my knuckles and then kind of pressing the hurting spot. Somehow this pain feels extremely relaxing for me. Also it helps me think when I can't concentrate. You first. I count the toilet paper squares, ensuring there's exactly 4 or 8 before I tear it off to wipe. I usually tear 3. I guess this means we are enemies now. Just before I'm about to write Sometimes I'll do this little circle thing in the air above the paper, like I'm revving the pen up, before I use it. Sometimes I take a huge intake of breath, as if I've been stuck underwater for longer than I'm comfortable, and can finally breathe again. It scares the crap out of my friends as I'm usually quiet for several minutes, and then suddenly I'm practically screaming. I just tell people that I forgot to breathe. I rarely realize I've done it too. It just happens. I also randomly do one hiccup. Sometimes mid-sentence, and I'll continue my statement without letting the hiccup distract me. Please make sure to press the like button and subscribe for more videos. See you all later.